recent history with China and their expansion plans pretty much all over the Far East. Kind of talk to me a little bit about what you saw while you were on active duty and kind of what you're seeing as it plays out right now. And it's all over the news. It seems like there's some kind of I wouldn't say a run-in or even a conflict, but there's a lot of Navy ships in a small area right now in the South China Sea, and it just seems like it's all over the news. So kind of let's just kind of talk about China over the last 25 years.
Yeah, so it's undeniable and undoubtable that the Chinese military, if we want to talk about the military, has been growing its capability in a very significant and sizable way, really ramping up from the mid-90s until today. So if you watch the Chinese operate in the late 90s, it was one level of operations, but that quickly ramped up in the next 10 years. And now is really where they're having fully functional naval capability, and really the only fleet that has the capacity, that has both capability and capacity to challenge the United States Navy. Having said that, sometimes I think we get a little off shift. We had this shift recently from the wars in the Middle East to great power competition, and great power I think really means Russia and China. And we could talk about Russia separately, but with China, yes, it's clear from an economic standpoint, from a global standpoint, from a military standpoint, there's a competition arising, which is important. But I think those who translate that into the surewire way to win this competition is to ensure we can win fleet engagements at the highest level, may be a little bit mistaken. So as we've looked at what happened to us in the land realm, in Afghanistan and Iraq and Vietnam, and we could go back. It's also happening us in the sea realm. We're losing the conflict or the competition at a level lower than great power war. South China Sea being the best example of that, in that they pretty much occupied the South China Sea without firing a shot. They're using old capabilities, new capabilities, all kinds of capabilities to bring international power to bear at a level higher than great power war, which is being very effective and being very influential in diminishing our influence in the Pacific. So I think it all starts there.
And real quick, for people that may not necessarily be all that familiar with the part of the world that we're talking about, is that the Paracel Islands and the Spratly Islands? Is that part of the Straits of Mallorca? And that is a main commercial shipping route, isn't it? Doesn't it go right through the South China Sea?
Absolutely. The commerce goes through both from the coast of China, from the United States and so forth, typically travels through the South China Sea. That's that island chain, bordered by, if you looked at Indonesia and the Philippines, and then a little bit higher up, which is no longer the South China Sea, Japan, major commerce route, Straits of Malacca, which is between Indonesia and Singapore initially. It's the major shipping route of the world right now. So it all goes through, and the Chinese, and you can read about it, have claimed the 9-dash lines, which essentially what they claim as territory borders all of those islands, Indonesia, the Philippines, goes up, kind of wraps itself into China and says, this is our maritime territory. And so the South China Sea is that region, includes the Spratlys, it includes a lot of atolls, a lot of reefs. It's not hard land like occupying Poland. So those analogies don't work, but they built up substantial capabilities, and we did not have an ability to counter what they did. And in my opinion, we still don't. And so if we went to a large scale fleet engagement, we know how to do that. But how do you counter when somebody is bullying the Philippines, to do something? How do you counter someone who's bullying the Vietnamese? How do you bring national power to bear to have influence in that region? And my concern is we haven't figured that out yet, and we're late to the game.
Yeah. Well, and this is something that has fascinated me, and so I'm glad I got a chance to talk to you about it. But watching that happen, them building up the Spratly Islands from basically just uninhabited little points sticking out of the ocean to full-fledged airfields, and that wasn't like they did it and one night it just happened. I mean, that was over a course of probably 10 or 15 years. So my impression was either we, like you said, either we couldn't figure out how to counter that or we let it happen, but somehow there are now some pretty significant bases where there just used to be small little islands. I mean, that to me was an incredible amount of work that had to go into that.
Yeah, and I was watching it up close as it happened, frustrated, like, because we still had rules like about territorial waters and all the types of things. So we couldn't, as a nation, come up with a response. So we pretty much watched it happen. And even though some people would be taken back by the capabilities they have, I mean, at the great power war level, I mean, we can argue about how effective that those places would be against U.S. long-range bombing, all those things. But in terms of influence in the region, below the level of high-level war, it has provided them tremendous influence and their ability to impact their shipping lines if they wanted to. And so it's that tremendous influence that they're garnering as a result of what's really a coordinated, I don't know if it's high-level coordinated, but from a distance, it's really a coordinated effort to have more influence in the United States up close and personal inside the first island chain out there and then inside the second island chain. And then they have some global reach that they're attempting as well.